It is gearing up to be another big week in the Sean Combs sex trafficking trial. Testimony set to resume tomorrow, with another one of Combs' former assistants taking the stand. Last week concluded with rapper Kid Cudi, who testified about his brief relationship with Cassie Ventura. Kid Cudi said he was concerned for her safety as well as his own. He described the time when he says a jealous Combs broke into his home, locked his dog in a bathroom, and opened its Christmas gifts. The jury also saw photos of Kid Cudi's charred Porsche. Cudi testified he knew Combs had something to do with that damage. Joining me now, defense and trial attorney Misty Maris.
Welcome back to Fame Flux, where the truth behind fame gets exposed. Cassie wasn't hiding a simple secret. It was a silent scream. Over a decade of control, fear, and humiliation. Allegedly, on the night of the Met Gala, she was assaulted in a bathroom by Diddy, while others reportedly witnessed it and turned away. Now, 9 months pregnant and testifying in Diddy's criminal trial, Cassie is finally revealing the truth. The allegations include forced encounters, blackmail, and emotional trauma so severe she once contemplated walking into traffic. She compared the abuse to the infamous Ike Turner narrative, referencing the eat the cake Anna Mae moment, symbolizing not just violence, but power and manipulation. With video footage now introduced in court, the doors to this long-hidden story are wide open.
And former U.S. prosecutor Sarah Krisoff. Sarah and Misty, thank you so much for being here on Memorial Day, no doubt, when you could be doing a lot of other things. I'm going to start with you, Sarah. When we saw this testimony from Kid Cudi, how impactful and important was it for the words that came out of his mouth in the stand, but also they've had the whole weekend to sit with it?
Yeah, so the prosecution is trying to build the racketeering case, particularly through Kid Cudi, and hopefully, from their viewpoint, with witnesses to come.
Diddy's legal team is pushing back, asking why Cassie waited so long. Her answer? Fear and shame. According to testimony, she once worried, "What would I tell my mom if the truth came out?" A 2017 text was submitted as evidence, where she wrote, "Nothing good comes out of freak-offs," followed by a chilling statement, "You treat me like you're Ike Turner." That message wasn't just symbolic. It carried the weight of generational abuse and trauma. This trial is now shining a harsh light on what Cassie endured and what consequences Diddy could face next. What unfolded in court this week was deeply unsettling. Cassie Ventura, appearing 9 months pregnant, testified under oath about her past relationship with Sean Diddy Combs, recounting a pattern of alleged emotional and physical abuse spanning over a decade. According to her testimony, the relationship began when she was a teenager and signed to Bad Boy Records. Though promised a 10-album deal, she said only one was ever released. Instead of a flourishing music career, Cassie described being drawn into a dynamic of control, manipulation, and fear. She spoke of being isolated from industry peers, pressured into silence, and subjected to conduct that left lasting emotional and physical effects. Her account detailed unwanted situations, non-consensual encounters, and acts that reportedly left her with ongoing health issues. Medical evidence, including photographs, was presented to the jury to support these claims. A witness also testified, stating he observed troubling behavior and suggesting that some incidents may have been recorded without consent.
So I think that's been the area where there's been the least amount of testimony so far, but they're going to build that block by block in trying to, convince the jury there was some sort of enterprise and all of these people that were around Combs trying to cover up the crimes that were committed in furtherance of that enterprise.
Misty, as far as how the defense is handling some of this explosive testimony from Kid Cudi, who was very strong on the stand, according to our reporters who are in there watching this every single day, how is the defense handling itself so far?
These allegations add further weight to an already serious federal case. Cassie's testimony brought renewed attention to questions of coercion, power imbalance, and the mechanisms that can silence survivors for years. Her words were measured but firm, and the courtroom listened as she recounted the long-term consequences of what she experienced. What emerged in Cassie Ventura's second day on the stand painted a harrowing picture. Her testimony detailed years of control, coercion, and emotional distress. According to her statements, this was not a case of mutual consent, but of fear and survival. She described a dynamic where saying no felt dangerous, where avoiding conflict became a survival strategy, and where protecting her safety meant deleting sensitive videos from her own phone. In one exchange presented in court, Cassie had messaged Diddy asking for videos to be deleted, expressing concern about the number of people with access to his devices. His response, included in evidence, showed no agreement to remove the material. She testified that after their relationship ended, an incident occurred during what was supposed to be a closure conversation. She alleges that it resulted in a violent encounter, deeply affecting her emotionally and physically. The quote that resonated most with the courtroom wasn't about the $20 million settlement she received. It was her statement. "I would give the money back because I would have agency and autonomy, and I wouldn't have to work so hard to get those things back." This made it clear. Her testimony wasn't about financial compensation. It was about reclaiming her voice and her freedom. To underline the nature of what she endured, the court revisited a message she once sent, referencing a well-known survivor of abuse. It echoed the lasting impact of control and manipulation, showing the emotional toll endured long after the relationship had ended.
Well, first of all, explosive is the perfect word because the main point of that testimony from the prosecution's perspective was the Molotov cocktail that Kid Cudi says it was Combs and his affiliates, his associates, who blew up his car. And that is part of the predicate crimes prosecutors are seeking to establish of arson, which goes towards racketeering. But Sarah, I was actually in the courtroom for Kid Cudi's testimony, so I saw it. He was a great witness, but the defense was able to chip away at his testimony on cross and establish that he had no direct information. He didn't see anybody. There were no cameras. There was never an arrest. Basically throwing a little bit of doubt as to whether or not he could really say it was Combs or someone associated with Combs who actually did that damage to his car. So the defense did a good job. He also said that Cassie played him. This was his testimony, and that she was living a double life by dating both himself and Combs.
Cassie also described the internal conflict she faced, how she blamed herself for what she went through, how she hid the signs of distress, and how she carried herself publicly while struggling privately. Her testimony was powerful. So powerful, in fact, that her husband, present in court, reportedly stepped out during parts of it. The weight of her story reflected not only what she experienced, but also the broader conversation about accountability, trauma, and the courage it takes to speak out under the most difficult circumstances. She received a $20 million settlement, but still chose to testify, appearing in court 9 months pregnant. Her goal? To reclaim her agency. But just as her testimony began to fade from headlines, a 2018 Met Gala interview resurfaced and changed everything. What had once seemed like a polished red carpet moment took on a different weight. Now viewed in high definition and through a new lens, the clip appeared less like fashion footage and more like a quiet cry for help. That year's Met Gala was hailed as fashion's most exclusive night. But behind the scenes, troubling claims emerged. According to industry insiders, what took place wasn't just high fashion, it was high tension. Cassie has since testified that during that time, she faced ongoing control and mistreatment. Allegations point to a specific incident during that event. A confrontation behind closed doors that left her visibly shaken, with multiple individuals reportedly present but silent. The troubling nature of the claims lies not just in what allegedly happened, but in how it was ignored by those nearby.
Now, that speaks to her autonomy in the situation, that element of control. So the defense did an excellent job on cross-examination of getting that out in front of the jury.
Yeah, one of those moments that Kid Cudi had was saying that he saw Combs standing outside after that car was burned, looking like a supervillain, standing there with his hands behind his back. But I am curious about some of this coming in. There was no police report, there was no investigation, there was no arrest of Sean Diddy Combs at the time. How were you surprised that that came in, that the judge allowed that testimony and those pictures?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's more to come on this, because it was a lot of supposition on behalf of Kid Cudi, saying this must have been him because we had this warning, and then the thing happened. So it was, and that is always, frankly, a danger in a racketeering case. They have this huge swath of time that they're covering. There's lots of events. There's a real question of is all of this stuff properly before the jury?
Yeah, and that is something that obviously, if there's a conviction, that can come back up on appeal. Misty, I'm curious going forward this week, what you are expecting to hear, because so far, almost every single day of this trial has been jaw-dropping testimony.
In court, Cassie described a world tightly controlled, where her schedule, physical well-being, and personal boundaries were micromanaged. She said every part of her life had been restructured to serve a single purpose: participation in disturbing encounters she called freak-offs. These became so consuming, she testified, there was no time or energy for anything else. What had once seemed like carefully curated glamour now stands as a marker of something much darker, an experience that extended beyond the spotlight, behind the curtain, and into silence. Beneath the luxury and couture, silence ruled, a silence maintained by power, money, and the collective decision of those in the room to look away. Cassie continued to appear in public, but behind the scenes, she testified to enduring extreme physical and emotional abuse. In court, she recalled a moment of despair, saying the pain once drove her to consider walking into traffic. She described being thrown against walls, stomped on, dragged across hotel floors, and at one point, allegedly dangled over a balcony before being hurled into patio furniture. It wasn't just testimony. A surveillance video from a 2016 hotel incident resurfaced, footage the public had seen, but only in a shortened, edited version. In federal court, the unedited 15-minute recording was shown in full. Journalists reported that the courtroom fell completely silent. What the jury saw was far more disturbing than anything previously released. The video, according to courtroom sources, confirmed Cassie's claims that she was fleeing after a violent confrontation. It captured her barefoot and pleading at the front desk before being pulled back. Damage to the hotel room followed. Federal agents presented physical evidence, cash, baby oil, and other items Cassie had described as part of the alleged freak-off setup.
Absolutely. So tomorrow, after this long weekend, we'll be back in session in court, and Capricorn Clark is set to take the stand now. She's come up in several different witness testimonies. She's been referenced. She's a longtime assistant and eventually became an executive at Bad Boy Records. So many of the witnesses that we've heard from so far that were affiliated or working for Combs were little snapshots of time. 2 years here, 2 years there. Capricorn Clark worked with him for a longer period of time. She also was referencing Kid Cudi's testimony that she had reached out to Kid Cudi and said, hey, Combs and some of his affiliates are at your house, are breaking into your house. So she's certainly going to be a very important witness. And my expectation from pre-trial is that she's going to testify about the means and methods of the criminal racketeering conspiracy that prosecutors are seeking to establish.
Yeah, and we're expecting, 6 weeks of the prosecution putting on its case and the defense doing its thing afterwards. I do want to ask you, Sarah, about some reporting that has come out from people. They talked to folks in the jail, and they said that Combs will have a chance to take part in a spades card game, dominoes, 3-on-3 basketball tournament, and a soccer tournament that were offered to prisoners for the holiday, as well as to have some barbecue. He is innocent until proven guilty.
These were recovered from the scene during Diddy's arrest. Then came the pivotal question from prosecutors. Was she harmed during those incidents? Her response, though restrained, was unmistakable. The answer was yes. This case now stands on more than accusations. It rests on surveillance video, sworn testimony, forensic evidence, and the courage of a witness determined to reclaim her voice. Despite the public appearances and glamorous events, Cassie says the abuse happened in plain sight, and no one stepped in. her testimony highlighted a chilling contradiction. She stood center stage at award shows and fashion galas while enduring physical and emotional violence behind the scenes. She described being mistreated in front of assistants, bodyguards, and industry associates. One particularly troubling moment came after she arrived at a party visibly injured. Rather than concern, a BET executive allegedly told her to smile. According to Cassie, maintaining Diddy's public image took precedence over addressing any warning signs. Those who tried to intervene faced consequences. After Cassie contacted artist Scott Mescudi for help, she claims Diddy responded by threatening violence. According to her, his reaction included a disturbing statement suggesting harm toward Cuties' property. This, she testified, sent a clear message. Seeking help carried risks. Daniel Phillips, a witness who previously testified, echoed similar fears. When asked why he didn't report the abuse, he said he believed Diddy's influence would override any complaint, fearing even for his life. In an industry driven by power and appearances, few were willing to confront someone so deeply embedded in its structure. Singer Dawn Richard, formerly of Danity Kane, also testified. She described witnessing a violent outburst in which she says Diddy threw Cassie to the floor and attempted to strike her. In another instance, he allegedly hit Cassie with a pan full of food. Dawn admitted that fear kept her silent for years. Despite this growing number of testimonies, the wider entertainment industry has remained largely silent. The contrast between the gravity of the allegations and the muted reaction from high-profile figures has raised serious questions about complicity and accountability. Where are the responses from those who stood beside Diddy on red carpets, supported public causes, and shared hashtags, only to ignore Cassie's allegations? The industry appeared to look the other way for years, shielding influence while dismissing the damage. As long as the music and money kept flowing, silence prevailed. Cassie, seen by many as living a life of privilege, was instead enduring a reality few acknowledged. Even now, after multiple testimonies, surveillance footage, and photographic evidence, the silence from much of the entertainment world continues. When Cassie left the courtroom, she said little, but her legal team made it clear, this case is no longer just about one woman's trauma. It represents a broader reckoning for those silenced, overlooked, or dismissed while others thrived unchecked. The statement wasn't just legal, it was a stand for accountability. And now, with the trial underway and federal evidence mounting, attention is turning beyond Diddy. Industry insiders know if he's held accountable, others could soon follow. So, what do you think? Was Cassie the only one? Why did the industry stay silent for so long? And are more revelations on the way? Share your thoughts in the comments. For continued updates on this case and others making waves in the entertainment world, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The next development could reshape everything. See you in the next report.